when you bring value and then you have that creativity, they can't replace you. And I think that is what's going to happen over the next 2 years. I'm telling everyone, hey, you have 2 years to really up level yourself and take yourself to a different level. Because I think that bottom layer of talent is going to be wiped out like the blacksmith.
Who says tech can't be human?
What is going on, Hacker Valley fam? Welcome back to the show. This is going to be one of the most important episodes for Hacker Valley this year because, as promised, I brought back my brother, the social reporter who's been dropping prediction after prediction after prediction about this being the year of the AI agent. Marco is also the Mozilla Odin program manager. He leads building the Gen AI bug bounty program for Mozilla, leaders in the space. Marco, welcome back to the show.
Ron, thanks for having me. I'm super excited because there's so much to cover that, we got to get right into it.
Let's get it. So let's talk about the past 2 weeks. The past 2 weeks have been crazy. There's been new coders that have been dropping like Codex, Opus, Sonnet 4 just dropped yesterday. So take us away. What's going on from your perspective? And then we're going to jump into predictions.
Listen, this thing is moving fast. And I tell you right now, over the weekend, I'll give you a perspective. Over the weekend, I did a keynote at Hack Miami. And when I was in the beginning, I get a little sense of how the crowd, how advanced they are. And I asked a bunch of questions. And I was so impressed that the majority of everyone in the crowd, probably 90%, said they use AI every day, as well as in their workflows. Now, this was a very stark contrast from last year's DEF CON when I was at a panel and there was only 3 people in the audience that said it. So I was relieved, right? But what's going on now? It's like you have to be in the game to understand what is being released. Right now, for instance, I'll give you a great example. Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 was released yesterday. First of all, amazing improvements when it comes to security. Kudos to Jason Clinton, CISO, friend. Great job on securing that model. It is the gold standard when it comes to it. Now, all of us are waiting, right? Right now, I have Windsurf. I've been hitting my restart update. Get the update. I want it in. First of all, I want to see how many credits it's going to take for me to get it and use it. And the second thing is, how good really is it? Because 3.7 thinking was amazing, and Claude Code is amazing. I am just anticipating for this to basically be released into these programs to see what it's that creativity that everybody's going to be doing and using and what's going to be released next, right? Then you had Codex, and that was a surprise because Sam, he dropped a tweet, said, we got some hotness for you coming soon. We didn't know it was going to be the next day. We did not know that. But he dropped that. And then 3 days ago, there's a video posted on OpenAI, and they just bought the company, the designer from Apple. I forget his name, whatever. I know his company is IO, but they bought his company for $6 billion, all stock. What a deal. All stock. No cash. They're both billionaires by now, but it was a great deal. They're talking about design. They're in this bar in San Francisco, and you could see them imagining how the future and technology and products work. And then you have Google I/O this week, and they drop Google Flow. which everyone is talking about.
And Google Jules, the Codex competitor, which I didn't think got a lot of news. It didn't get a lot of coverage.
It didn't because it took all the smoke out the room when they released that. So we could go into that. But you know what's on everyone's mind?
What's that?
Where is Grok? Where is it? When is it coming? Because I tell you, like I said, I still think Grok is amazing and very good. Now, the time is ticking.
Clock is ticking. And you know what was suspicious about Grok? You know, they dropped the UI version months ago. When you came on the show, it was like the first week they dropped it, and we were excited because the deep research on the Grok 3 was amazing. But the API took over a month to come out.
Look, I have some friends over there, and they said they were working on it, right? You're right about how long it took. I was so disappointed on the price. To me, that's where they could have killed the market by just undercutting everyone, because you have your data centers. You could have done it, because it's always a shift, right? There's a shift on how good a model is and what's the price. Those are how, when things are released, you know, everything moves. This is why you see Alibaba, they're the lowest on the market. They're like, yep, we're gonna have our Gwen, and we're gonna basically give it away for free.
It's good too.
It is. So Grok is on the clock. They're on the clock.
You know what's crazy is when you first came on the first episode in 2025, it seemed like this year being the agent was a smoke show. Like it was hype more than a reality. But now when you look at things like Codex, you look at things like Cursor, Windsurf, my favorite now, Claude Code. I was a Cursor bandwagon stan from day one. I started using Claude Code from your recommendation. I signed up for Claude Max. I thought $100 was way too much for a subscription. It's not. It's really good. And it's very agentic. And I say that way because you can give it a prompt and it's going to start to iterate and figure out what to do next. And that's typically for your code. But a lot of people don't realize that you can take your transcripts from meetings. You can take your notes from meetings or your ideas, and you could put them in a directory, and you could have Claude Code give you the same type of output that you would get from ChatGPT interface or the Claude interface, but it's just being done in the Claude Code CLI terminal.
I'm happy you brought this up. I'm happy you brought up in January when I was predicting these things, right? This is why I wore the hat today. I'm a thoroughbred. I can predict these things. Why? Why did I say that? It's not because I'm Mystic Mark and I predict these things. It's because I've already seen the trend. The ceiling is being hit on these models. So what are we going to do? We're going to go wide. We're going to start adding all these cool little features that's going to potentially help everyone. And that is how you start gaining more and more market share. So you're going to see it. You're going to see more and more and more features. I think there's going to be a point where, like, every 2 to 3 months, you're going to see a new model, right? Because everybody knows now that evals aren't hyped up. They're cooking those books. I knew it since last October, November. It's like, it's impossible. And then there's been stories by TechCrunch about Llama and all this stuff.
You mean like the benchmarks, right?
Yeah, the benchmarks, the evals, benchmarks and stuff like that. You need to use them to decide how they work and stuff like that. I think within the next year, you're going to have models that are specific for certain things. You're seeing this where Claude has their Sonnet. That is only for coding. Like, you could use it for whatever, but what is it known for? For its code.
It seems like they bowed out of the just everyday general purpose model, and they're going all in for code, infrastructure, workflow.
I'm happy you said that, because as you see it, I see it the same way, sir. And this is why I still haven't seen Windsurf. Everyone says that OpenAI has purchased Windsurf. I haven't seen it. Have you seen any announcement about it besides people saying it and articles written? I haven't seen any internal memos or anything or press releases, but I think this is why OpenAI has gone after Windsurf to go ahead and start building like their own Sonnet.
So did they complete that acquisition? My understanding was they did, but I saw the announcement. I didn't do much follow-up research after that, and I just made an assumption because of Codex.
Correct. What announcement you seen? Codex or announcement of the merger or the
Announcement of the intent to acquire.
Yeah, but you didn't hear anything released. Like what they did with IO that they bought the Apple designers company.
Mm-hmm.
Forget a press release. We're going to sit down and dream a little bit. And it was amazing 25 minutes of talking about potential and what is the future. So I think something's going on there. They haven't announced it. But the reason why I say this is because OpenAI has to do like their own Sonnet. They have to come out with that model that rivals that, because right now it's a two-headed race, Anthropic and OpenAI.
I'm surprised that OpenAI wants to compete in the coding race, because to me, you develop code for a reason. You develop it because of the output that it can provide you. But to me, like, I'm already seeing that. Why is OpenAI just not going directly for the output rather than putting it on people like you and I to build code to generate outputs?
It's very interesting because you're starting to see all these other organizations use code, and which allows them to replace other workers. So I don't know if you've seen Mark Zuckerberg and the CEO of Microsoft was having a discussion, and they said, how much code does AI write internally? And Satya was like, well, it does almost all of our tests, and it's very hard and complicated. He didn't want to make it seem like it's a lot. But Mark Zuckerberg was like, it's writing a hell of a lot internally, and we expect it in the next 2 years to skyrocket. This is why they have to focus on this, because that will be a missed opportunity because everybody's focusing on Sonnet. So if they go ahead and tackle that and bring that to the masses, because they already have a lot of enterprise contracts, then it's a good thing. We're living in a good world. And the way I look at it is everyone is going, there has to be a sense of urgency. Everyone has to get into this AI game. It doesn't matter if you're a chef or if you're a developer. You need assistance, and this is going to be like your personal assistant to get that productivity to the next level.
Let's talk about CrowdStrike for a second. There was a record high in revenue and profit for CrowdStrike, but they had layoffs. And a lot of people have been speculating online that the layoffs are coming due to the fact that we're now leveraging a lot more AI. I've gone on the record and said it myself that I'm not trying to replace people with AI, but I do expect my entire team to use it in a way that's going to serve them. If you are generating images and you need inspiration, go to AI and have it generate a few images. You probably still have to go and create them at this point, but go to AI. Same for social clips. Who's not using AI to get short form sound bites? I don't use it to create the video, but I use it for inspiration. I expect all of my team members to use AI. If I found out that someone wasn't, I'm not going to fire them. But if I'm as big of a company as CrowdStrike, you do have to ask the question, is there fat on this train? Because that's going to ultimately incur damage going down the road.
A lot of organizations are rethinking their thing. How they look at AI, how is it going to be implemented, and where do we cut the fat? And even if we cut some muscle, it's okay. And that's what's happening now. You're seeing it across the board. And people's like, oh, it's not on AI. They kind of always do that. You're fooling yourself. You need to put the right hat on. And this is why when I go to conferences, I make sure that I speak about this. Like, don't fool yourself. Don't push it away. lean towards it and learn. Make sure I give examples when I give talks. I'm like, you want to force yourself to go ahead and learn AI? Put up cursor, and you cannot leave that screen for a week. Put up cursor or windsurf and go to the extensions and find the things you need and start beginning to integrate everything and understand how to create files and do everything you need. Because it's coming. It's coming. I'm not saying that your job is at risk. I'm saying there's a level, there's a layer that some people aren't good. And those are the people that are going to get cut. And the faster you know, I was having this conversation this last Friday, right after my keynote. Some guy was speaking to me about AI and what does it mean? And I said, do you do a repetitive task every day at work? He goes, yeah, all I do is look at charts. I was like, if that doesn't tell you that you might get replaced, I don't know what else to tell you. Because if you're saying all I do is look at charts, dude, you could use Eyewitness to look at charts for you every hour or every half hour. Mm-hmm. And you got to analyze what you're doing and how can I then create something that could replace me. When you start thinking that, that's how you get better. So, and I told them, I said, maybe you create a screen capture, start focusing on how often do you make decisions? Is it every 15 minutes? Is it every 30 minutes? Well, then take screenshots and let AI analyze it. And now you just put yourself out of a job.
I was just on a call the other day where someone was mentioning that they're not a data engineer. This person is someone that has developed many different marketing agencies. And what he does, as not being a data guy, not being a cyber guy, he takes screenshots of every console he's in. If he has a security question and he's like getting a notification from Google Workspace, takes a screenshot, pops it into ChatGPT. What is this? What does this mean? His YouTube analytics, he doesn't have the time to go through them line by line, takes a screenshot, asks, what does this data tell me? And through just doing that, you're simplifying all of the complications of your workflow and not having to have subject matter expertise in answering that hard question.
The people that are going to stick around are the creatives. And people think creatives are born. I think they're created, they're molded over time. When you could look at stuff and you make those connections and then you create something new, that's being creative. And I think when you bring value and then you have that creativity, you become replaceable. Like they can't replace you. And I think that is what's going to happen over the next 2 years. I'm telling everyone, hey, you have 2 years to really up-level yourself and take yourself to a different level. Mm-hmm. Because I think that bottom layer of talent is going to be wiped out like the blacksmith.
I need to jump in for a second and share some details about a special group that we've created for you, our listeners. We understand the importance of creativity in cybersecurity, and Hacker Valley has created a special Cyber Creators Mastermind. Each month, we meet and discuss how to break down technical concepts through stories, the intricacies and opportunities of using audio and video to highlight what's important in cybersecurity, and we share how you can use content to highlight the hard work that you put into your craft. You can check out the mastermind by visiting hackervalley.com/mastermind. We'd love to help unlock your creative potential and would love to see you there. It's got to. And you know, we look at other industries, even our own industry, like we all come from the telephony space. We used to put our network traffic over the telephone lines, and then we decided, oh, we're going to do that a little differently. We're going to start putting it over Ethernet. And then things evolved, and people that were engineers on site doing a lot of Ethernet configuration, they started doing wireless. And then now they're focused on the cloud and making sure that their virtual data centers are set up. Same for cybersecurity. We started as sysadmins. Like we weren't cyber people. We were the ones configuring every little nuance of the operating system to harden it and all the configuration that came with every application. And now we have quick starts where, you know, if you download a package on GitHub, you can have all of that hardened security built in or choose to remove it. And it's just a lot less clicks. I think it's amazing. I think it's very unnatural for us to be doing a lot of the cybersecurity work that we are doing. When we worked together at Intel, one of my main goals was to automate the copying and pasting to VirusTotal. The SOC would have to copy something from Jira and paste it into VirusTotal because we didn't have automation.
You know what's funny about that is that was right before SOAR, and you left Intel. I'll never forget. You left Intel and you said, Marco, it's time for me to go. And I said, yep, do it. You moved over. You went to Demisto, which was like the real first big SOAR company. Imagine if Demisto would to exist right now. It would be all AI and fine tuning of models to do what you need to do. And that's where we're at now. You have to be in it to win it. Look, this is the progression. Last November, I was like fiending. Like, I need to learn how to fine tune models. I need to know. I want it. I believe. I feel this is the next wave. Dude, I'm fine tuning models now. You just have to have that persistence to go after it. Mm-hmm. So where does this game go? Let's land this plane. As you've seen over the last 2 to 3 months, you have to be in the know. Things are coming out every single day. People just worry about these big events, right? The big event with Google, everybody was locked and loaded. There was yesterday. People missed what dropped Wednesday, right? And this is what I'm saying. You have to be on point. What's going to drop next week is a mystery, but you got to make sure you figure out how to get and consume your information. And the way I'm doing it is using OpenAI to go run an agent to go fetch me the latest and greatest news when it comes to AI. Mm-hmm. So, and I do it twice a day. I was doing it once. Too much information is being released. Too many things are happening. So you have to be on point.
So let's talk about the predictions, because I think that's going to be a really pillar piece to tie all this up. We're about to approach June, and that's the halfway point. And there's already been, like you're mentioning, like every 2 months, we're seeing a model drop. The first one that we did, you were like, hey, Claude's got to drop. A week later, they dropped 3.7. It's been 2 months. Now they drop 4. In 2 months, they'll drop another one. Same for OpenAI. It seems like they're actually releasing a little bit more frequently. This being the year of the AI agent, what's your prediction for June and July?
So Grok is definitely going to be released in June. Maybe, I don't know what model they're going to release, but they're going to release something. They have to. What I think is GPT-5 is going to be released in June. And when it does, the next day we're going to record, because we're going to do a full breakdown and analysis, because that is supposed to be on a whole different level. I think that is coming in the next 2 weeks. That's my prediction. For the open source community, the people that are creating like cool stuff, I really think we got to keep our eye on Llama. We have to cheer for Llama, because when Llama is released, you get to do some cool things locally, as well as potentially fine tune with data sets, some cool stuff. So I'm cheering for them to like constantly push 4.1 out and stuff like that. So I believe, and I'm hoping that they release within the next 3 weeks. So as you're seeing, you see this cycle. So then after that, you got to cheer for DeepSeek. And let me tell you something. I tell you this, maybe we save it for the next time, because I want to go on such a deep dive on DeepSeek and the distillation it did against OpenAI. We could go next time, put a pin in it.
I got you.
But that could have been prevented. But we're going to go into DeepSeek and do a deep understanding for the people out there why DeepSeek was so important. And I think what they did was even more important. So DeepSeek, as well as Gwen, they're going to be releasing these models. And the thing is, as these models get better and better and better, where do we go from there? And I look at the world of cybersecurity, because as these models get better, I look at, okay, what threat actors are trying to penetrate these organizations to begin trying to steal IP from them. And that's the things that they have to worry about that a lot of people aren't talking about.
One of the things that I thought was very interesting about Claude is they don't show the thinking, the Claude 4. They stop that because of that distillation exploit that DeepSeek did.
So yesterday I was on Opus 4, and I was trying to do some bypasses, some jailbreaks, and it was giving me like, because they pushed out this new ASL3 level security, and it was wild. I tried and I tried. I was 4 hours in, but it was like, doing deep thinking. This looks abusive. We're gonna basically deny this. And I think you're right, where you hold that back and you try to understand that path. But I did make some breakthroughs, so I'm looking forward to doing some bleeding edge, not even cutting edge, bleeding edge research, which I think is going to be very different in terms of what we've seen and what you have to do. So these techniques that I was researching, that I, of course, I had AI helping me with said
Of
research,
course.
allowed me to understand something deeper. The way you phrase things will answer it, because you're phrasing it in a different way. And I realized something again too over the week. The way when you put something in a prompt, and this is going a little deep into the weeds, but when you go into and you put your prompts in, like let's say the cat in the hat, right? The AI knows like the cat in the hat, right? So it understands the way to put on words. Like if I say deaf, what do you think?
Hard of hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. So hard of, right? Or the cat in the,
Mm-hmm.
those are weights that are put on there. But when you put something like ambiguous, exemplar prompts that will allow me to, the weights are thrown off. And this is why you get those it's like manipulation of tokens with the weights gives you a whole different answer. And I've been playing with this over the last 2 weeks. So it's like one of these things that you really have to think to like bypass a lot of this, because the reason why I even bring this up is because the security is amazing, but the fundamental of manipulation of tokens, let's say if it's connected to a RAG system with like private documents, with those weights being like heavier on different words, it can interpret and go fetch something that you need. So this is what I'm kind of working on, and I've kind of got some crazy stuff in the chamber.
So let's break down this ASL, AI safety level 3. And I wonder why they called it level 3. Maybe they already had level 2 and 1 beforehand. But it says that they've activated AI safety level 3 deployment as their standard. And it's the most secure model. It can stop people from getting those bounties that we reward on the Odin side when it comes to CBRN. One of the big things that I know the models were so bad at was giving out crystal meth, MDMA, all these different types of illicit substances, the instructions on how to create them.
so just to explain ASL level 3, if you went back, I think it was last year in October, they had their AI like bypass, like I think it was level 2 and it was getting to level 3, but they never deployed like their ASL level 3. And this is like when the agents could run wild. And kudos for this, was actually last July or August. Yeah, last July, because I discussed it at the Anthropic party with one of their PRs, and they were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that he really read this." So it was a document that he read explaining how dangerous potentially AI is and what they've seen in the lab. Right? It was amazing because when you get something like that, you get a better understanding and the general public could understand. So this is why it's important when you talk about ASL3 and what they've done. I mean, it's almost bulletproof and I love it because it is a challenge for us.
Hmm.
But more importantly, when you begin to break down what this does and it helps to thwart off things like CBRN, things like exploits for malware. These are the things that are really bleeding edge on the security side for the defensive side, but more now it you have to up level on the offensive side
Hmm.
because what if they make this a standard and they help everyone up level AI? What does that say for Odin? Where does that put Odin at?
One of the things I was so proud of that, I didn't really understand the scope and scale of all the work that you are leading at Odin and also that I'm able to take part of. Very grateful of that. What I was most excited to see recently was two of the researchers go to Japan for a meta event and seeing them come together and seeing that community be formed and forged and built. And now with this ASL3, I think that this is the new beginning. Like we had guardrails, but now there's a standard for it. It reminds me of when ASLR came out, which is
Oh
address
yeah,
space randomization. It's some type of
yeah.
algorithm that stopped buffer overflows. And we had to think differently. We had to start looking at, okay, how are applications serializing the information and doing JSON related attacks? Like a lot of packages were using things like Pickle, and Pickle was vulnerable. So we had to go around doing buffer overflows and find new tactics. I look at this as the new frontier for AI security, period.
You're on point. And like for me, other models right now, it really doesn't matter because this model is really good. And they take security very serious, just like we take breaking these models very serious. Because why do we do this? We want a secure future.
Hmm.
This is why we're here. This is why we say, hey, we have to secure this. It reminds me of 2006, right? When, you had port scans and everybody's like trying to, exploit things. Well, this is the golden standard. And like I said, kudos to Jason Clinton. He posted up on LinkedIn about the effort, the this is the best we have. So now everybody is like, okay, this is the best. Let's see how do we break it. And I heard, some cool things that they have in store for the next go around. So it is a cat and mouse game, and it always has been like that, right?
Exactly.
So we're looking at this from a different lens, and I'm happy today is the end of the week because I have a whole weekend.
So before we wrap up, I did want you to speak directly to the researchers because I know one of the things that you've been doing is pushing people to think differently about AI security. So anyone that is just learning about Odin, they're wondering what it is, what they should be looking at and looking for before they submit to you. Let's speak directly to them.
I've been on a crusade for the last, I want to say, 8 months, going to different conferences, waving the Odin flag, as well as making aware that everyone should be all in on AI. And for Odin, what we want to do is get researchers together, have them and us provide each other value, take different models, try to not only bypass them, try to look for O days, try to add in prompts. There's so many ways you could attack these models in so many ways. This is very important for us because we're helping, like I said, secure tomorrow's models. we've submitted to Anthropic, right? We've disclosed to them many bugs. We've disclosed to OpenAI as well as Grok, and we made these relationships. And the thing is, as our community grows, we have 700 people on our Discord. We have over 500 researchers that have registered. We've had over 1,500 submissions. We want to expand. We want to make sure that we're constantly expanding and bringing in the researchers. You don't have to submit, but you should be involved to understand what you can get out of AI. And if you go to our Discord, if you go to odin.ai, join our Discord, you'll see the conversations there. And we're super busy, but we try to get to as many questions as we can. And, I think the future of like Gen AI security is in our hands, right? We're the needle movers. So the way I look at it, Ron, what we do is going to be essential moving forward. And this is why many organizations are now beginning to reach out to us so we could work with them. And that, my friend, is how we land the plane.
That's it. Marco, I always appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, jumping on the mics. If you haven't done so already, you know what to do. You gotta follow Marco. You can find Marco's information in the show notes or description wherever you're listening or watching. Also, would love if you gave this episode a like, heart, and subscribe, and share it with someone that you think would enjoy it as well. And with that, we'll see everyone next time.